Bhagine Vyomavadvyaptadehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. So, in the previous class, we were dwelling upon the verse number 35, and in these few slokas, few verses, the Acharya is refuting, is making fun of any person who has a dull mind and therefore he's confusing the body with the soul or the body with the Atman, the Charvakavadis. So therefore he said in the verse number 34, Yasmat paramiti shrutya taya purusha lakshanam vininitam bimudhena kathasya dehakah puman. Now we had mentioned that the bimudha here is bigger the mudha bhava, the person. So a person who has sort of left it, left it behind. The bimudhata, the mudha bhava means the ignorance. He has gone beyond that mudha bhava. That kind of a wise person is the one who has mentioned, who has deduced, who has already explained it in a very nice way that this particular Atma is Swayam Jyoti, Swayam Prakashaka. It cannot be reduced to the dull assemblies of different materials like the bone and the flesh and blood and all sorts of body fluids. That cannot be the self, because all these that we see, we call our body, are anitya. They are non-permanent, ephemeral, transient, cannot be equated with the. This is what is Purusha, is Atma. This body is very, very non-permanent and they cannot be equated. And after this, in the verse number 35, he mentioned Sarvang Purusha Eveti Sukte Purusha Sangjite Apyuchyate Yatah Shrutya Katham Syadeha Kaha Puman. And further, he's elaborating, he's quoting another alternative source of the Shruti, of the Vedas. And what is that? The Purusha Sukta. He's saying in that Sukta, which is Purusha Sangjite, means it is Purusha Sukta. And what is mentioned, everything that you see all around, they are manifested out of that Purusha. You know, that there is this imagination of the Adi Purusha out of which everything has, you know, is a person with 1,000 heads and 1,000 hands. And, you know, this is a grand picture of that creator. Everything that we see in this on earth, whether it's animals or birds or plants or whatever you see, human beings, people of different social stations, different classes, they have all emerged out of that Purusha. That is the Param Brahman. How can you reduce that Param Brahman, that Avinna Nimitta Upadana Karana, the material and the Nimitta Karana of this whole universe, that God Ishvara, to this gross body? This body is jada, it doesn't have intelligence. If this body had intelligence, when we are sleeping, somebody comes and steals things from your house, you don't know. When we fall ill or we fall dead, this body is all perfect for a few hours, but it doesn't know what's happening to it. Okay, therefore it cannot be. He's saying, why should you at all further equate the Atma with the soul? What is the purpose? We are trying to talk about AparokshaAnubhuti, the process of slowly ascending spiritually to that higher plane is a very slow, steady process. So he would like to tell you what it is not. Now, so far, he has been explaining and proving that this Thula Sarira, this Annamaya Kosha, is not Atma. And then he would say also the Sukshma Sarira is not Atma. Neither this Thula Sarira is Atma, neither this Sukshma Sarira is Atma. And what is that? It's beyond the Sukshma and Sthula Sarira. Because that is how the Acharyas help us slowly approach that truth, which is very difficult to get at the first level. Just at the entry into the text, you cannot get a certain comprehensive understanding of what is Atma. So in a very slow, persuasive manner, step by step, they are leading us there. That is what he's trying to say. Now, he's quoting again from another Brihadaranyaka, 4.3.15, the fourth Adhyaya, Chaturtha Adhyaya, Titya Brahmana, and 15th mantra. So the mantra says there, Asangaha, Asango hi ayam purushaha. There is a dialogue between Janaka Maharshi and Yajnavalkya. And Janaka Maharshi is asking questions and Yajnavalkya is answering. And at every answer that he provides, Janaka is so overwhelmed. He said, "Oh my God, now I know so much. Okay, I give you 1,000 cattle, 1,000 cows." He said, "Yeah, but I haven't done my job yet, my boy." Then he gives the next higher level of, expression of the secret. And in the end, Janaka says, "I'm giving everything I have, my kingdom and everything." And Yajnavalkya says, "Okay, you have given it to me, but I'm the guru now. So now it's my order. You continue to rule over this kingdom, but as my servant, because you have handed over everything to me." And where does Yajnavalkya go? He himself actually abandons everything and goes into the forest for Nididhyasana. Because he knows what is the Atma Tattva. Now he wants to further realize it. He is also in source of that absolute AparokshaAnubhuti. And he vanishes into the forest, and there's a beautiful dialogue between him and Maitri before that. So what he's saying, let's look at this verse number 36. Asangaha purushaha prokta brihadaranyake picha anantamalasang slistaha katham syadeha kaha puman. Asongo hyayam purushaha. This purusha is verily asanga. It doesn't have any sanga, means any sanyoga, any relationship, any sambandha. And he's giving a beautiful example. When we are in sleep, I'm talking about the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad here, there is this discussion that when we go to sleep, you see a lot of dreams. Now, in the dreams, let's imagine you saw that some people forcibly got you married to somebody and who had a lot of children, and it's some tribal kingdom or some Aboriginal people, or there's a foreign country you have landed up. They forcibly got you married, and this lady has about, say, 2 dozen children, and now you have to father them all. Otherwise, they'll shoot you down. Some weird dream you saw. And to save yourself, now you fought. In the process, let's imagine this particular community had a head, and by mistake there was a fist fight between you, because you want to escape from there. In the process, by mistake, you use some stick or something and you hit him very hard on the head and he fell dead. Your sleep breaks. Will they hang you because you have killed someone? No. You saw that in a dream. That's not real. On the other hand, if you have been coronated as the emperor, or you have been made the president of the United States, in the morning, so they'll give you Air Force One? No. It has no relationship. It's just a dream. You are not affected by papa punyas of anything that you experience during your dream. That is used to explain. Similarly, this Atma is absolutely not touched by whatever is happening in your phenomenal reality called Vyavaharika Sansara. This is the Vyavaharika Dasa. And this happens Veda Drishtya. You have this Veda Buddhi. This is me, that is him, that she, and they, all these kinds of, these are all imaginary, because ultimately everything is one. And the example the Vedanti gives is that the mother she's a folk art painter, let's imagine. She's a Maithili painter. So she has a white sari and then she starts painting on that. She paints little kids and animals and dogs and some woman. And so inside that sari, there is another lady who is wearing a sari, and that sari has a color green, the other sari is red. So there are 4 or 5 women. It's painted on that sari. There is an elephant, there is a horse, there is a lion. She has painted a lot of things. And then she has a little child. The child says, "Mama, I want to see the elephant." She opens that sari, shows the elephant, and folds it back. Where does the elephant go? She's just opening and closing the sari. There is no reality. Now I want to talk to that blue sari wearing auntie. And the mother opens the sari, shows that woman wearing a blue sari. Blue sari within the sari. What is she showing? She is showing the sari to her son. What is the son seeing? The son is seeing a lady wearing a blue sari within that sari, and he's fond of that auntie. She's in a dance posture in that particular painting. And what happens to that auntie? The mother folds that sari and puts it in the almirah. That is the pralaya. When all of us vanish, we get Vejavastha. That is pralaya. There is nothing real or unreal. That is how Vedanta explains. It's like you have so many windows which are open and you fold the computer. You just close it and you go to sleep. You put it in the sleep mode. All the windows, all reality, songs, dances that you're watching on the YouTube, anything, they come to a silent point and then you go to sleep. You wake up, open the computer, they all come alive. However, all that is happening here, the computer is not touched by any of these. Is it affected by them? Asango hi ayam purushaha. Same way, the Atma which is in us is not affected by our sad emotions, happy emotions, excitements, depressions. It's not affected by any of these. That is that ultimate Atma he's mentioning. Asangaha Purusha Prokta Prakarshana Uktaha. It's very well mentioned where? In one of the greatest Upanishads, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In Adhyaya Chaturtha Adhyaya, 4th chapter, 3rd Brahmana, and 15th verse. When the Shastra has made it very clear, the Atma cannot at all have any sambandha, any entrapment, any entanglement. It is the mind which gets entangled. The body gets dirty, the mind gets dirty or sad or happy, nothing to do with the self. If so, then he asks this question in the second half, Anantamala Sansistaha. What about the body? Is there any end to the kind of bacteria and all the chemicals and materials and body fluids? Are they very nice and very fragrant? You caught up on this body, you don't take a bath for 2 days, you know how nice the body smells. You know the fragrance of your body. If you don't you don't forget about not taking a bath 3-4 days. You just go to play a match of TT or table tennis or go jogging and come back. Don't change your t-shirt and you sit. You feel great. People around you actually, find the smell very offensive. They'll go away from you. They go change your dress, take a shower. This body is very, very impure. We try to make it look very attractive, but nevertheless, this body by nature, by its very nature, is very impure. And what it is, anantamala sangslistaha. Not one or two, several deficiencies and impurities. That is this body connected with, associated with. Kathang sya deha kahapuman. How can this body, which is so impure, can ever be Purusha or Atma, when Atma, Shastra says, is Asongo hi ayam Purushaha. You cannot equate the both. That is the small point he's making here. Let's move forward, because he's trying to hammer that point into our brains till we understand it and accept it fully. The verse number 37, now he's saying, Tatriva cha samakhyataha swayam jyotirhi purushaha jadaha paraprakashosau katham syadeha kaha puman. In just previous verse, same adhyaya, chaturtha adhyaya, and again same Tritiya Brahmana, we look at the 15th verse. This one is the 14th mantra. In the 14th verse, there is a description of how the Atma is Swayam Jyotihi. When you are in your deep sleep, you are watching an orchestra where your favorite particular number is being played, or one singer who is actually no more alive, he is singing there. And you have the best guitarists and the drummers and violinists, and they are all playing their respective instruments. You are watching it. Now, truth of the matter is, all your indriyas or sense organs, jnana indriyas, are asleep. They are not in function. They are on a holiday. You are in sleep. And in that state, how are you able to see things in the dream? With the help of whom? Is there any other consciousness or the sense organs of anybody else with whom, with the help of which you are being able to watch a person sing for you? That's not possible because you are asleep. Your eyes are closed, and how do you see your most favorite actor or actress, delivering a certain dialogue in a garden, and there's a beautiful scene, and you're watching it? How is that possible? You're watching a cricket match. You are right there on your bed. How can you watch a football match or cricket match? They're all happening with the help of what? With the Sakshi Chaitanya. That is directly seeing it, right? And when you are, because the mind is still active, all these indriyas are asleep, the mind is active, and you are seeing the manas is still active when you are in dream state. What about the deep sleep state? When you wake up, you are saying, I had a lovely sleep. So you have experienced a lovely sleep when the mind wasn't there, the manas wasn't there, the buddhi wasn't there. But there was somebody to experience it so that you are being able to remember it when you wake up. That is the saksha, sakshi. That sakshat ikshate iti sakshi. That is what Sankarananda writes in Bhagavad Gita in his commentary. That is sakshi chaitanya. Directly it perceives. It doesn't require the help of other senses. And it sees how Swayam Jyotihi. It doesn't need any karanas. It doesn't require any instruments or tools of perception. The body makes the use of different jnani indriyas. They are the tools of perception. But this Atma, the Sakshi Chaitanya, which experiences Sukha Dukkha, it doesn't require the help of anything. Even when you say that I'm not very happy, tell me which sense organ are you using it to experience your happiness? You say mind. Okay. When you say my mind is a little depressed, which organ are you using? Buddhi? Okay, so you will say depression is an emotional thing, and therefore that is in the manas, manomaya kosha. So with vijnanamaya kosha, I can, okay, fine. When you say that my mind is, my cognitive decline has started, I'm not being able to understand it very well. So you are referring to some deficiency in the vijnanamaya kosha, and then the cognitive self, and therefore the cognitive self cannot describe the deficiency of the cognitive self. What is the pure self? Who is the person who is watching your cognitive ability? Somebody higher. And what is that? That is self. Which instrument does it use? It doesn't use any instrument. Swayam Jyotihi. In that verse, just in the previous verse, there is a discussion where he's saying, Tam eva, tam atmanam eva, tasamakhyataha. That is referred to tatra eva, in that very prakarana is what is mentioned. Samakhyataha swayam jyotihi. He purushaha. The atma is swayam jyotihi. When it is so, then immediately he gives the contrasting reality of our physical being, the physical seat, the annamaya kosha. He mentions jadaha paraprakashyo asau. This sarira is jada. First thing, it doesn't have intelligence. The body doesn't have intelligence. Okay, now you can come around and say that, well, now we know that the cells also have intelligence. Each part of your body has consciousness and intelligence. Yeah, that's all fine. Vedanta has no argument with it. But that agency they don't have. So the body doesn't have intelligence. The intelligence they are borrowing, they are reflected in the, it's like the moon basks in the reflected glory of the sun. Similarly, all the sense organs and the cells and everything, they're deriving their consciousness. They are all reflections of that original consciousness. And similarly, he's saying jadaha para prakashya. That means somebody else. It's a prakashya, somebody's prakasaka. You have a torchlight, you're putting it on in a garden, so you can distinguish between different plants. And you can identify where are the garden chairs, where you're going to sit. It's a new moonlight night like today. So you need a torchlight. So these chairs, the flower plants, the lawns, everything, they are paraprakasha. They are lit up. You can know about them with the help of external light. That is what the body is all about. Body cannot know itself. You require intelligence. However, the self doesn't require anyone else or any sense organs to be self-evident. Atmanaha swata siddhatvat is swayam jyotihi. Therefore, he's saying, Jadaha paraprakashya asau sariraha, the body which is paraprakashya, it is lit up by somebody else. How can that be? Katham syat dehakah, this the body which is paraprakashya, how can that be puman, purusha? How can that be dehakah puman? Further, he's driving on the same point in different words. Here Vidyaranya Muni writes, Atra ayam purushaha swayang jyotihi bhavati iti shrutya swayang jyotihi purushaha samakhyataha. That is mentioned in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Then he goes further. He iti vidvat prasiddhim dyotayati. That is saying he means is very well known by all the wizards of the Shastras, the best minds in the field. They know about it. And then he says, what? Asau ghatadivat drishyo. Now this body is like a ghatapata, any object like a pen or a pencil. We can see the pen and pencil. The pen or pencil cannot declare their presence without our seeing it. But the self, the consciousness, doesn't require anyone else. If that is the case, then the question, who is the creator of creator, will come into picture. The creator is self-evident. The Atma is self-evident. They do not require somebody else to declare. How do you know anything else? Through consciousness. How do you know consciousness? That will be anavastha dosha. There will be eternal regression. You don't know where to stop. Therefore, you want to stop it. Therefore, you say that is swayam jyotihi, swata siddhaha. That he is mentioning. So, eva jadaha, jado dehakaha katham bhuman syaditi vakhyatam is explaining it. Now we will go to the verse number 38. And therefore, he is saying, Atha astamidam jnana kandam karma kandepi dehat manurveda eva ninnita itya. He is saying, forget about jnana kanda. Forget about the Upanishads. They are full of knowledge about the self and all. But have you looked at the Purva Mimamsa, the karma kanda part of the Vedas, where they guide you to do different kind of rituals? Swarga Kama Jajeta, Dasapurna Masabhyam Swarga Kama Yajeta. There is a statement. Somene Yajeta. So there are different statements who are saying that you want to go to Swarga. There are different means. So you want to do different Vedic rituals. Now, why the body is different from the Atma. It's evident there. They are not Upanishadic wizards. They don't believe in Upanishads. They believe Upanishads are like stories to be recited, heard during the Karmakandas. They are called Arthavadas. Incidental to it, Stuti and Ninda Paraka stories, either to praise that particular ritual or to say you should not do this. So they bring in a few stories. That is how the Karmakandis look at this Jnana Kanda or the Upanishads. These are stories. Don't take them seriously. You have to do the Karmakandas. Sankaracharyas, the Jnana Kanda people say, don't waste your time in Karmakandas because you have done it millions of births and you will go on doing rituals, you will not get anything out of it. Because andhena tamasavrita, you will go to Naraka only. You have no particular thing. You are blinded by this limited understanding of reality. Swarga is anitya. Now, there is a beautiful secret there. You will go to Swarga. Can you go to Swarga with this body? Okay, we agree with you. You are Purva Mimamsa people. We don't have any fight. We are ready to listen to you. But at least you have to agree with us that the Atma is different from this body. You cannot disagree. Even though they don't agree with you that Atma is the only reality, they are forced to agree that Atma is different from the body. Because they are saying, if you want to go to Swarga, do these rituals. Because you cannot go to Swarga with this body, so the Karmakandis also accept that the Atma, there is something which goes to, the Jiva is not this body. The Jivatva of the Jiva, who can go to Swarga, is definitely different from this limited reality called the physical seas, the Annamaya Kosha. Now, even the Sankhyas, even the Nyayayikas, the realist school of thought, they also think Atyantika Dukkha Nibriti, that is the goal of their philosophical speculations. Why they write philosophy? They're saying, look, the life is, you are full of pain and frustration because you do not make sense of the world in a real good way. So we would tell you about this whole cosmos, how it functions, what are the atoms, what are the relations, how things happen. So you are given a philosophical medicine. So there, it's a beautiful thing actually. Philosophy is therapy. That is Nyaya. They're saying we'll give you philosophy and that is your medicine. And then you will have Atyantika Dukha Nibriti. But they also accept Atma as Vibhu Padartha. The Atma is not this physical seed. They don't accept it. Atma is there in this body, but the body is not the Atma. They distinguish very clearly. So Sankhya is also same thing. So what he's trying to say is all this in the next verse is trying to drive home the point that all of them, directly or indirectly, disagree with Charvak, who equates the body with self, and they all agree with us that the self is beyond this body. That is a limited point they're trying to make in this verse number 38. Proktopi karma kandena hyatma dehad vilakshanaha nityascha tat phalam bhukte dehapatadanantaram. Proktopi, it is also said, where? Karma kandena, in that particular prakarana. Kandena hi atma dehat vilakshanaha. This atma is different from the body. Why so? And this atma is nityascha. Body will fall, body will die. The atma will go to swarga. So it is nitya. It has a longer span of time. And they believe that atma is nitya. We also say atma is nitya, but they confuse the jivatma as nitya. We say the atma, paramatma, that is nitya. Jivatma is also sopadhika with name and form. It is also adhyasika. That is a little more refined formulation, but broadly they think Atma is Nitya, Sarira is Anitya. Nityascha tat phalam bhukte. Kim phalam? Karma kanda phalam. So the karma kanda rituals you do, and there are certain results, and you reap the benefits. If you do some bad karma, you get the papas. Deha patat anantaram. When the body falls, a person dies, Vedanta will say the Sukshma Sarira, Linga Sarira, moves upward. And what is that Linga Sarira we did in Vivek Shvaramani and earlier in Bhagavad Gita? And what is that? That Linga Sarira is your Mana Buddhi plus Pancha Prana, Pancha Jnanendriya, Pancha Karmendriya. And they are born out of this Apanchikrita, Tanmatras, out of which this Buddhi, Mana, and the Jnanendriyas and the Prana and all these together. This is Sukshma. That is not Panchikrita. Panchikrita, if that is Panchikrita, then Sthula Sarira, Annamaya Kosha is born. We are talking about this Linga Sarira or Sukshma Sarira. Why is it Linga Sarira? Because through that you make sense of the reality. This whole thing, that is Bhoga Karanam. In order to experience Sukha Dukha, you need these Jnanendriyas and Karmendriyas. They are in the Sukshma Sarira. And when we die, the physical seed falls. That Sukshma Sarira, Linga Sarira, however tiny and subtle it is, it moves forward. Moves forward and goes to Swarga. It doesn't have this physical body, which means that is, and until we have moksha, that Linga Sarira continues. So the Nitya word also applies there. Because until we get Jnana, Atma Jnana, it will be born and reborn again and again, it will continue. When it was born first, no knowledge. There are 6 anadis. And Jiva is also anadi, Ishvara is also anadi. Jiva, Ishvara, Bheda is also anadi. So out of the 6 anadis is without a beginning. So this Jiva goes in circles and circles and circles till it has Atma Jnana. That is what the Vedantic position is. So he's saying, Nityasya tat phalam bhukte, karma phalam bhukte, deha patat anantaram. Therefore, this body absolutely cannot be equated with the Atman or the Self. So we've come to verse number 38. Let's move forward. Now he's going to discuss about the Sukshma Sarira or the Linga Sarira. We have discussed at length about the Sthula Sarira. Now we are moving towards the Sukshma Sarira. Now he's talking about that Sukshma Sarira in the verse number 39. Lingam chaneka sanyuktam chalam drishyam vikaricha abhyapakam asadrupam tat katham syad pumanayam. Now, this is a beautiful verse, but it has a reference to several Upanishads and several statements in the Shrutis. It's just put it in a very brief 2 sentences. That linga sariram cha aneka sanyuktam. This aneka sanyuktam, the linga sarira gets entangled with different elements. This much can be interpreted in 2, 3, 4 ways. One, what is the linga sarira? Linga sarira is made of 5 jnanendriyas, 5 karmendriyas, pancha pranas plus manas and buddhis. In Sankhya Mata, they add ahankara. In Sankhya philosophy, the linga sarira has 18 elements. And for Vedanta, it has 17 elements. Here what we do, the mana buddhi chitta ahankara we accept. Only mana and buddhi we are taking. What about chitta and ahankara? Chitta is smarana adikriya one. So the chitta is antarbhavita. You incorporate it, include it in the buddhi. Ahankara you include in the manas. Because mana you have all this, I am this, I am that. So that is how if you do antarbhava, include them in these 2 categories, it can remain 17. Otherwise you have to call it 19 elements. The Sankhyas, they have ahankara as a separate element, because for them, when the Srishti Prakriya starts, from Mula Prakriti comes Mahatattva or Buddhi. Out of then the Pancha Tanmatras and ahankara. That ahankara is very sattvic ahankara, and then they create all other elements. That is how they have a separate. And here we are calling what we call Pancha Pranas, they call it Pancha Tanmatras. In their linga sarira, our pancha prana or pancha vayu is replaced with their pancha tanmatras. That's a final theoretical point. Coming to this, what he's trying to explain here is that lingam cha aneka sanyuktam, because you have 17 elements in one. There is another way to look at it. You see, when the sukshma sarira goes up and it comes down, we have done a lot of papas. It's quite possible that we get some animal, because you understand, we have karmas can be divided into punya, papa, and mishra. If you have punya karmas, you will be reborn, you will have a body of Gandharva, Jaksha, Rakshasa, Devatadi, which are superior manifestations of the self. And if you have papa karmas, then you would have animal beings. Very little papa, maybe you will become a cow or a horse or an elephant. Too much of papa, maybe you will be a snake or a poisonous snake or maybe a tiger or something. Right? So even papas and punyas are categorized as strong and weak. And accordingly, these things are mentioned in different smritis and different texts. Then there is Mishra Karma, where papa and punya are mixed up. Then you will become human being. And then you will have different qualities attributed to you, either sattvika or rajasika or tamasika, depending on the intensity of the punya or papa karmas done in the previous birth. That is what the Shastra says. Therefore, this linga sarira, the sukshma sarira, there is no description of whether the person is going to look very handsome and tall or very intelligent or dull or rich or poor. None of these things are mentioned. The sukshma sarira of a very successful man and the sukshma sarira of a very unsuccessful or a damned case, more or less same. There is no visible distinction. You cannot even know it. Only when they assume, depending on the karma, a certain physical seed that you know is born in such and such family, he has such and such inheritance, or he has such and such mind, all these things will become visible. So this word, aneka sanyuktam, could also mean, because the sukshma sarira is reborn again and again as animals, plants, human beings, superior celestial beings. So the sukshma sarira gets connected with different realities. Then chalam, it moves also. It's born, it's dying, it's going here and there. But I tell you, these are all kalpanika from ultimate Vedanta Drishti, Vivek Chudamani, we have done it. Okay. And now, if you have the space inside this pen, I'm moving this pen from here to there. You can say the pen space is moving. Actually, space is just one. You cannot move the pen space. So all the Sukshma Sarira and all, taking Abhimana into account and Upadhi into account, it's identity. A certain imagined identity because of which you are going, you are coming, you are reborn, all these are during Ajnana Dasa. From an ultimate standpoint, details are not real. You must have seen that video which was circulating on the net, that there is some lady sitting on a lawn reading some book or something, in a lawn outside the Google office, and then the camera zooms out and suddenly you see Earth and cosmos and everything, and then close comes down again, you see slowly reality is becoming visible. It's like that. From an overall macro perspective, we don't even exist. Like, for example, somebody who is sitting on Jupiter and meditating, he looks at us, what does he see? He just sees a small dot, or not even that. So from an ultimate perspective, all these are not real. From the micro perspective, these things become real. Like under the microscope, you see all kinds of bacteria and stuff like that. In naked eye, you don't see anything. So it's all about the way we look at it. It's all about what we see and what level. So he's saying Aneka Sanyuktam Chalam Drishyam, and it's also visible. Drishyam in the sense, wow, Sukshma Sarija we cannot see. Then why you are using this word Drishya? You see, whatever is not Drik is Drishya. The seer, the Atma alone is real. Everything is in Drishya Varga because we are talking about it. Sukshma Sarira. You cannot see it with the naked eye, so what? It is still Drishya. Why? You can do inference. You can do logical, derivation. You can look at the Shruti Pramanas and you can talk about that reality. It is still in Drishya Varga. The Sukshma Sarira still is in Drishya Varga, not in Drik Chaitanya. It's not Chaitanya, it's Jada. It is Drishya Varga, Drishyam. Vikari cha, because you know that this whole sansara is born out of Bhagavan. And in what way? Bhagavan said in Bhagavad Gita that out of my Maya, this I have created. So Upadana Karana, or material causes this universe, is Ajnana. And then the Nimitta Karana is Bhagavan Ishvara, the Chaitanya aspect. So how does he explain it? He takes the example of a spider. The spider, which is creating this net out of his own saliva. So if you take the saliva into account, it becomes the material cause. You take the agency of that particular spider, it becomes the nimitta karana. Like a potter makes a pot. Potter doesn't enter into the pot. He is the efficient cause, or nimitta karana, not the upadana karana. Upadana karana is clay. Clay will remain in the pot. But this whole sansara, this ajnana is where in Maya. And where is Maya? Maya is also in Ishvara. It's also Asrita and Ishvara. And therefore, indirectly, Bhagavan becomes both Upadana and Nimitta Karana. That is how we understand it. Now, what he is trying to say is Vikari cha. So this Vikara, the sansara, but Bhagavan is Nirvikara. Parameshwara is Nirvikara, Nishkala, Nitya Suddha Buddha Mukta Swabhavaha. So, and how the sansara is created? This Vikara is a modification of Maya. Vikara is of 2-3 kinds. One Vikara is what you see in everyday life. Milk, you heat it and put some lemon in it. It becomes what? It curdles, and then what do you get? You get chena, or you get raw cheese. Milk has become that raw cheese, that paneer, or whatever we call it. That is parinama, sakshat, directly. That is a real change. That is a Vikara. When there is a rope and you saw that as a snake, that is also Vikara. And what is that Vikara? That is called Vivarta Vikara, Vivarta Parinama. In Vedanta, we are talking about Vivarta Parinama. So Vikari in what sense? Brahman has no change. It's pure. There is no change in the Atman. There is no change in Bhagavan. And then whole sansar happens out of Ajnana. And how does he create it? Bhagavan mentions in Bhagavad Gita, I am like a magician. So I am being able to create this whole drama in front of me. I'm being able to create it. It's up to you. But it's not real. From your point of view, it's real. When you get Atma Jnana, then all this will become useless for you. Therefore, Vikari cha, so it undergoes changes. It's Nitya Vikari. Bhagavan is Nirvikara. Maya is Nitya Vikari. There is not a moment where Maya is not doing its job. It's always changing. It's always doing. So vikari cha. Abhyapakam asadrupam. It's vyapaka is what? This Chaitanya, Sarvatmaka, Sarvavyapi. Everything else is Vyapya. That is Abhyapaka. Abhyapaka is Vyapya. So there is space inside this particular pen. So Vyapaka is this space. This is Vyapya. So this becomes Abhyapaka. It's pervaded by space. Space is all pervading, not the pen. Similar, the Sukshma Sarira is not all pervading. The Chaitanya is all pervading, also permeates into the Sukshma Sarira. That's how we become reality. Okay? And Abhyapakam and Asadrupam. It is not Sadrupa. What is Sad? Sad is Trikala Vadhya, which cannot be refuted at any point of time, either past or present or future. It will be always there. This pen wasn't there. After it decays, it will not be there. It's only appearing for a while. Like all of us. We are anitya. But the self was always there, shall always be there. The dream reality is real when we are seeing the dream. When we wake up, what happens to that lovely dream or that nightmare? It goes. What happened to your beautiful first year in college? Everybody remembers the first week in their college, isn't it? What happened to that first week? There's so much of excitement. Where is that first week? Just a dream. You don't even properly remember. Oh yeah, yes, I had met you. Now the friend says, you remember we were sitting next to each other? Or really? You hardly remember. That's just like a dream. Similarly, all our life, everything is just like a dream. Look at your own past, you'll figure out. Much of what has happened is just like a dream for you. Where is that reality? It's all in your mind. Outside? No, nobody knows. And each of us have a story of life. We can share it. But the actual story is very unique to all of us and is no different from the way we see our own dream. Our life is also a personal dream. And therefore, he's saying, Abhyapakam asadrupam. Sadrupa is only Atma. Swata Siddha. Everything else is very subjective, limited to yourself. Like you see a blue snake, I see a red snake, the rope remains there. All of us are looking at different colors of snakes depending on our interest in fear or purva sanskaras. Similarly, we are describing what the life is all about to us, depending on our own papa punyas, our own affinities, our inclinations, which are again born out of our own purva sadhana, whatever sadhana we have done in the past. Somebody becomes a Vaishnava, somebody becomes a Saivite, somebody becomes very interested in sports, and then there are different kinds of sports. We are so much unique. And all depends on where we have started and what we have done recently. So he's saying, Abhyapakam asadrupam tat katham syad puman ayam. How can the Sukshma Sarira also be equated with the Atma Tattva? No, that's not possible. That's how he's reputing it. In the verse number 39. The commentator says is, Nanu evam sati. So Vedantinam apasiddhantah syad, he's saying what? Lingamiti. Which if you say that the body is not there, whether he's saying the Sukshma Sarira is also not Atma, because the Karma Kanda Mata is all about the Sukshma Sarira going to Swarga. And this particular student, the defense lawyer, is super excited. Oh, really? You are now planning to join the gang of the Mimamsakas. So you are equating the Sukshma Sarira with the Atma? He's saying, no, we are never doing it. We are trying to say Atma is different from the Sthula Sarira, the physical body. And only to that extent, we are saying that even Mimamsakas agree with us, not to equate the Atma with the Sukshma Sarira. And he's saying, look at this verse, Lingam, Linga Sariram, Tat Parokshyadi Dharma Vishishtam. And what he's saying this, Dharma Vishishtam, there is some Sukshma Sarira, Nitya Aparikhyatva, Bhavaha, Puman, Gatham, Syat. Now, this Atma, you cannot have Parokya Jnana. You'll have Parokya Jnana through books. But you have Nitya Aparokya Jnana. I am this. That I-ness is ever visible to you. Every time your sleep breaks, you're instantly aware of your presence. Without any tags, without any adjectives, you become immediately aware of it. And that is always experienced. we are not being able to see our real self. That is agreed. We see ourselves as men and women as in the light of our nationalities, our age, our finances, our social identity, name and fame, and all that. We may not have Swarupa Darshana, but it's always available to us. So it cannot be there. And therefore, he's saying that he's refuting that Linga Sarira cannot be again, because he's refuting how it cannot be. We have discussed that n number of times. Don't you say this is my mind and the mind is not well? Mera man kharab hai. So you are not your mind. My intelligence didn't help me in the examination or during that particular interview. You are not your intelligence. My body is not well. You are not your body. Whatever is yours can't be you. It's very simple in Vedanta. The simple trick is whatever is yours is not you. Your wife, that's you can say that you are my life. Some people out of excitement describe their children, you are my Jan, you are my self, you are my everything. All right, but that is not you. Anything that is yours is not you. So in Brihadaranyaka again, there's a beautiful dialogue between husband and wife, Maitreyi and Yajnavalkya, where she becomes like a Vedantic disciple. She was very intelligent. She's asking him a lot of questions, and Yajnavalkya is saying, do you know, Maitreyi? The husband loves the wife not because he loves the wife, but because he loves himself. The wife loves the husband not because she loves the husband, because she loves herself. And there are a lot of examples. If a wife is given an option, whom to save, you can save only one person, young son or your old husband. She will choose the young son. Why? He's going to give her support. You say, okay, you have lived so many years. Now go, let the son live. That's very real. Because when you say, I love X or Y or Z, you actually love yourself. Because if you are not there, you cannot love. Therefore, he says, the Atma is what you should meditate upon, because that is dearest to you. Everything else, they are secondary. Here, the I or the self is not your selfish self, but the real self. We are not talking about the selfishness. No, we are talking about the pure thing. Chideka Ghana, that ultimate thing, that is the source of all our happiness, the source of our existence. That is something that we need to find out, we need to meditate on. And therefore, he's saying, all these Gyanendriyas and Karmendriyas, I am breathing, I am alive, that your breath doesn't become you. You are not your breath. So all these 17 elements of the Sukshma Sarira can be refuted and distinguished as different from that Drik Chaitanya, that consciousness which is watching and seeing and making sense of all these 17 elements, and therefore that self is beyond all these. Then we'll go to Abhyapakam Parichinnam Asadrupam Atma Jnaneka Buddhyam Cha. Because only Atma is Sadrupa, everything else is Asadrupa. Then let's go to the next verse now. Evang dehadvayad anya atma purusha ishvaraha sarvatma sarvarupasya sarvatito hamavyayah. Now he's coming to that conclusive statement. What is he saying there? Evang dehadvayad. What are these two bodies? The Sukshma Sarira and the Sthula Sarira. The Atma is different from the Sthula and Sukshma Sarira. Anya is different from them. That is Atma, Purusha. That Purusha is no different from that is Ishvara. With the Jivatva Upadhi, it becomes Jiva, or Vidya Upadhitaha Jiva, Maya Upadhitaha Ishvaraha. Maya is Suddha Sattva Pradhanaha. Suddha Sattva Pradhana. And this Avidya is Malina Sattva Pradhana, because it is affected by the overwhelming presence of Rajas and Tamas. That is what we are. Malina Sattva Pradhana Avidya. That is covering us. That is what is the Jivatva. But the advanced Vedantis, some people also very argue that this Maya, Avidya, these words are using, but finally they are both Agyan only. These are all words that you are saying, this is Maya, this is Avidya, verily that is one. And the Asraya and Vishaya, both of avidya, is Param Brahma only. But there are other people who will say, no, no, avidya we cannot keep in God, let's put them in jivas, and avidya Vishaya becomes Brahma, but avidya Ashraya becomes jiva. So that is the Vachaspati Mata, Bhamati Mata. But we are not getting into these technical details. Broadly, we just have to understand that with avidya upadhi, that malina sattva pradhana avidya, that is what we are. A little clouded, over clouded. And Bhagavan has no sukha dukha, he has no rajas and tamas, he has no bhaktrutva, any. So he has no ragadvesha. So Shuddha Sattva Pradhana Maya. It is a doll in his hands. He is holding the doll, and that's how he is Ishvara. That Maya doll he's holding in his hands. That is how he becomes Ishvara. Otherwise, he'll become Nirvishesha Brahman. He cannot show either compassion or rage at us. He'll be beyond all that. And we will also not exist, because we are actually not what we look like, what we experience. We are what none of us experience. And that is that ultimate truth, that all of us are only reflections. It's like in Vedanta, they also make another distinction, like the water bubbles of foam, and then you have waves, and then you have the sea, and then ultimately you have water. One level of reality is the foam and the bubble that you see standing on a sea beach, and then you look a little deeper, you see the large waves, and then you see the sea, and you say this is Atlantic or Arabian or Pacific or Indian Ocean, and then ultimately what are these? Water. And that is that Nirvishesha. All other are Vishishta. There are certain names there. This ocean, that ocean, this wave, that wave. And the bubble is very close to you. That is how, in a differentiated way, we are seeing water with different names and forms. Ultimately, it's all water. These are other ways of looking at it. Evam dehadvayad anya atma purusha ishvaraha sarvatma. It's everywhere there, sarvatma. There's no place where it is not there. It is sarva vyapaka, sarva vyapi. So you cannot be outside. Ishvara cannot be outside of you. It's very simple and logical. If God is omnipresent, how can he be above? And how can we be outside of Bhagavan? If at all we are different from Bhagavan, then God cannot be omnipresent. Sarvatma, Sarva Rupa. So all that you see is another example is given. In a dream, you see that there's a dance festival, and there are girls from, let's imagine, 200 countries or 200 cultures who are coming and performing folk dances. Each girl is dressed up differently, singing a different song, representing her ethnic identity, and it's a wonderful cultural festival. You are enjoying it. Do you know who are you? You have become each of these 200 girls representing 200 cultural identities. Because actually you are on your bed. You may be a man, you may be a woman, you may not be a little girl. How does that matter? You have become these 200 little girls dressed up differently and singing differently, different languages. You may know your own mother tongue, but you are singing in 200 different languages. So all these things are appearing. It's you who is appearing in all these forms in the dream, and similarly, in the prapancha, in the Vishwa, everything that has become visible, all the number of snakes that we see in the rope has become all these snakes in Sarva Rupascha. Remember this Vivarta Mayavada here. Vivarta is kind of something which doesn't lose its Swarupa and yet appears as something else. That is the Vivarta Parinamavada. So is Sarva Rupascha, and at the same time, Sarvatita. The rope looks like maybe like a rattlesnake to somebody, is a cobra to somebody else, is a viper to somebody else. But the viper, the cobra, the boa, all these kinds of snakes are ultimately, the rope is beyond all that. Sarvatitaha. Beyond all that. Sarvatita aham avyayaha. So I have become many, but I'm essentially one. Avyayaha no avyati avyayaha. There is no change whatsoever. And that is how it is mentioned, verse number 41. Then he sort of explained a little more about how then this whole samsara appears and how we engage with it in the verse number 41st. Ityatma deha bhagena prapancha seva satyata yathokta tarka sastrena tatah king purusharthata iti atma deha bhagena. So they have distinction between body and mind and body and self, but they think Atma is Vibhu Padartha. But then say that we have so many Atmas, each person has one Atma. Atma is Vibhu. And then they have this Bheda Buddhi, Dvaita Prapancha. There is Atma, the reality is also because they consider these atoms as Nitya. Ishvara creates this samsara, but Ishvara is there, he doesn't need a material cause because the atoms are present. He jumbles these atoms in different ways to create the samsara. They are the first realist school of thought in India, the Nyayayikas. And they say that if you have a proper understanding of this prapancha, prapanchasya eva satyata, he's saying if you try to see in this manner by distinguishing all these bodies are real, all these consciousnesses and different people are real, that is how the samsara becomes real. Vyavaharika kaal mein, during the level of phenomenal reality, we accept everything is real. That is why we call it Vyavaharika Satya. In Buddhism and in Vedanta, we have two truths. So there are three truths actually. One is Pratibhasika, during dream. This is Vyavaharika, phenomenal reality, and Paramarthika, the ultimate reality. But broadly, Pratibhasika, forget, that is dream. So these apparent realities, there are two. One ever is this particular reality, working state, and the ultimate reality, Paramarthika state, which is only one. And for Buddhists, that is Shunya, or emptiness. So, whatever you consider to be true in this samsara, there is a particular way in which, with Dvaita Buddhi, you are accepting this is real, ultimately not real. Sopadhigatena, with name and form, yes, it's all real. It's like, another example one can give is, there are a bunch of school boys and girls. They are doing a skit. The teacher comes and trains them. Somebody becomes a king, somebody becomes a queen, somebody becomes an enemy king. There's a fight and all that happens on the stage. And when the play is over, people clap and all of them wear their school dress and they're going home. They're all one. They belong to one particular section of that school. Neither the king is real, nor the queen is real, nor the enemy is real. They are all good friends. Similarly, with this Bheda Buddhi, everything is separate from each other, but ultimately all of us are one. And this is a very powerful truth which Vedanta offers. Yathokta tarka sastrena, and then this particular samsara is fundamentally real. That is what the Tarka Sastra people say. Tatah king purusharthata, and then what kind of purushartha is there? Will you get liberation by having this Bheda Buddhi? Because Vedanta says the source of fear, the source of anxiety is Bheda Buddhi. There's a powerful secret in it. He's saying, look, somebody was telling me a very funny story. I want to share with you. So there's this guy who lives in Houston. He was here in Rishikesh, an Indian guy. He's an IT guy. And then during this Corona, he was very peaceful. He's also a student of Vedanta, but he got panicked because he thought that people are going to attack you. People could attack you. And then what he did was he went and bought a gun. And some fellow said, you bought a gun for what? He said, no, I also started practicing shooting, target shooting. I said, what? You see, people could attack me anytime. I live alone. Everybody has a family. I live alone. He's single. He studies a lot of philosophy, but he's a tech guy. He was so panicking so much, he bought a gun. So somebody comes, right to self-defense, I could shoot at them and survive. Why was he afraid? He was living alone. But the fear of somebody could enter his house because his houses are away from each other. They are not like Indian colonies where even if you talk aloud, others can hear. They are living away from each other. All separate houses. They have sensor lights, so suddenly the lights go on if somebody is walking by. But even then, there is every reason to be afraid. And there are a lot of incidents which happen, which do not get reported in the press, but a lot of events happen in there. Even in main cities, very close, within 4 5 kilometers of White House, a very close colleague of mine, he was given a new Apple phone by the office, and he didn't even reach his hotel room. Somebody snatched it. The muggers. After dark, you can't walk around. So these things are real. You have fear because of dvaitat bhayo upajayate. When there are two, there is a fear. Some of you may have read the beautiful story that we read as children. You remember Treasure Island, R.L. Stevenson, right? And then what happens? This guy finally lands up in that particular strange island. Then he finds another guy who has landed up for a long time and he was moving around. What happens to him when he sees this new guy who goes there? First experience he has is acute fear. Therefore, he's saying this particular Nyaya philosophy, which is premised on Bheda Buddhi, ultimate happiness, we can get only when we realize the oneness of all of us. Then freedom from all fear. Until then, there will be anxiety, there will be fear, there will be raga, there will be dvesha. All these infirmities will continue to haunt us down. They'll trouble us. Therefore, he's saying King Purusarthata. What is the greatness of these philosophies, dualities, dualistic philosophies? They cannot give you pure happiness. They cannot give you that liberation. Dvaita dvai bhayam bhavati iti shrutehe, because the Shruti says, because of Dvaita bhava, you are never happy, you are anxious, you are in tension. What is he going to say? Is that fellow loving me or not? These people are not respecting me. Where are these people? There is only one self. We are just appearances. Once we have that, then we are being, this intellectual chewing of words and concepts also doesn't liberate us, very honestly. And the real liberated souls are ones who have that power of wisdom, not lexiconic knowledge like this. We are doing abhyasa so that we are able to meditate on that truth. Because it's quite possible that we are studying a lot of Vedanta and then we have loads of raga dvesha. You must have also seen a lot of people very religious and they have loads of raga dvesha and mean-mindedness and stuff like that. Because you remember that beautiful song by T.S. Eliot called The Hollow Man. Beyond the emotion and the response, here falls the shadow. And then last sentence he says, here life ends, not with a bang but a whimper, because the real journey of spirituality starts after we have read and we have understood, but then we try to realize them. And that is what this book is about. But right now we're just doing Tattva Darshana, Paroksha Jnana. But this book title is AparokshaAnubhuti. So that is the final thing, and he's going to take us there like he did in Vivek Churamani. So we'll stop here. I've crossed the time limit, and we will meet on Saturday and we'll take it forward. Let's do the Shanti Mantras. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya
Purnamādāya Purnamevāvasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Guru Namaha. Om Tat.
Any questions anybody has? We can.
Swamiji, Pranam, one example you gave,
Yeah.
that the self observe our mind, that when our mind is not able to, mind hits the limitation, whereas through our senses we observe the other thing, but when mind is unable to perform a particular duty or understand or grasp, then it is the self that observes. It is not the another mind. So that is why the self is different and sukma and no, of course you said it's neither sukma nor stula. But this is what you defined it at one position. But my question is, that as a living being, when I am unable to pluck a mango from the tree, that I know that I am unable to do.
Mm-hmm.
I know that, like, why I'm unable to do, because I do not know the skill of plucking a mango from the tree.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, the mind knows that what it can do, what it cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
Like my other senses, touch. I know that, like, the touch can be painful, the touch can be pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
So there are two aspects of the whole thing. If my submission is that, like, if we are thinking that, like, the mind observes that, uh, uh, you know, um, uh, it has hit the limitation. That means it is not able to do the complicated sum. It has no ability. Then it is the self that, like, observes it, and it is superior. It is different. It is not within the body. Mind is a part of the body which we can understand, but this aspect we are not able to understand through this example.
I didn't get the question. What was the question? The Vedanta, all that it is saying is that the Sukshma Sarira and the Sthula Sarira are different from the self. The evidence they are giving is that whatever is yours cannot be you. And they are saying there must be a consciousness or reality or weakness which, though not visible to us, is definitely there, by dint which, by virtue of which, we are able to make a statement that my mind was absent. Who experienced the absence of the mind? Even in deep sleep, when the mind is not working at all, the manas is not there, the buddhi isn't there. When we wake up, we say that we had a wonderful sleep. We have been able to remember the nice, pleasant experience of the sleep. So somebody was there to experience it. Mind was asleep. The manas was asleep. The buddhi was, intelligence was asleep. So who experienced it? These are ways to drive home the point that there is a superior reality which is beyond the body and the mind, beyond the visible body and beyond the invisible body, or what is the Sukshma Sarira. That is all Vedanta is trying to say. And that particular higher reality, invisible reality, is the self. And how to reach there, slowly this point will be unraveled in this great text. And we'll take it forward. I hope it answers your question, but you can put it in the group. You can ask it further and we'll take it forward. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So we'll meet again on Saturday. Until then, see you. Have a very good week.